Legacy, 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 legacy. Black excellence, baby. You gon' let them see.
Hello, everybody. You are now listening to the Legacy Be Built podcast. This podcast is for all those who every day are watering the seeds of their promise. And these are my stories, hoping to serve as your motivation as you build your legacy. I am Lanisha Porter, the creator and the host of this podcast, and you are currently listening to episode 5, where we are talking about the money. This episode is all about how to be about your money and still be a good person, and why you should get over being self-conscious about promoting yourself. So let's just jump right in. Thank you so much if you have been listening and you have been faithful and you are now riding with me into this episode. Let's jump right into it, okay? So, where do I begin? I guess I'll begin when I first started out. I'm a 2-time author and also a motivational speaker. Those are 2 things that I really enjoy doing. Those are the areas in which God has gifted me the most. And for me, starting out as an author and a speaker, there was a lot that I had to learn. There was such a huge learning curve for me. And mainly what I had to learn was how to get over the naysayers. Partly, I didn't know much about selling books because it's not like that was, in-house information grandfathered through the back door in my family. I really had to search. I had to intentionally seek out mentors, and I had to study for the answers that I wanted to find. So things like marketing, promotion, and making money off of my book was a science of its own that I had to familiarize myself with. But I have to be honest with you and say, as much as I didn't know, there were some definite things that I did know for sure. And one of those things that I did know for sure was that your success could make other people feel uncomfortable, especially when they happen to be operating in a different space other than you. So naturally, to avoid making other people feel uncomfortable, I would, shrink into muting my own accomplishments and avoid toting them around aloud. And when I look back on it, I realized that this could be seen in how I would arrive at speaking engagements and actually not bring books with me with the intent to sell them. Let's just pause right there. If you are a business person of any great caliber, you know that you sell your product. You have to push your product. But I wasn't doing that. And, for the longest, I give out my books for free because I never wanted someone to weaponize it against me and believe that I was less genuine or that I was being pretentious for selling my work. Thus, I betrayed my own entrepreneurial spirit and take the price tag off of my product just to avoid people putting labels on me. And then, moreover, there's this thing that people do when you're self-promoting that makes you feel extremely self-conscious. And a lot of people that I meet, when they are in the business of, working for themselves or aiming to build their brand, they are extremely self-conscious about talking about themselves too much. And people, they have this tendency to make you feel that way when you're trying to build your brand. And it comes out in the okay, we get it, you sell books, or okay, we get it, you're trying to be on your grind. And they have a way of writing you off, even if it's unsaid. It's in their body language, or it's in how they avert their attention away from you. And that can really that can really crush or dampen your entrepreneurial spirit when you're starting out. And when you're doing the groundwork of promoting yourself and rallying a follow, you'll get that from time to time. People assuming that you're trying to prove that you're better than somebody with your unrelenting self promotion, when in actuality, the product just isn't going to sell itself. You have to be out there, you have to push hard, you have to sell the product. When you don't have big machines or you don't have big companies behind you that can give you the advantage of wide spread distribution, you have to hit the ground running hard. But that's something that I had to learn, and that's something that was really hard for me to get into the habit of. I literally had to shift my mindset into not being afraid and not being self-conscious about pushing my product. And in addition to like not purposely bringing my books with me to sell, I introduce myself to a crowd and then shy away from the noteworthy merits that I should have been talking about, because they were secured through my own hard work. And I'll speak more about that. It actually took a mentor to pull me aside and tell me face to face, Lanisha, don't you ever show up to a speaking engagement, without your books with you. And if someone gives you the mic to talk, you talk about yourself. You have to tell them those things about you, unless they won't know. It does you no good trying to be humble when you're trying to get ahead. And it clicked for me, because the person that told me that, I widely respected them, and they themselves had amassed such a large amount of publicity and notoriety and just reverence in the community, that it made sense when they said it to me. Don't be afraid to promote yourself. And being about your money doesn't mean that you forfeit altruism, the nature of doing things just out of goodness. That's not what that means. Each year I actually commit and honor a reasonable amount of work for pro bono. But it is okay to, churn the wheel of your economic engine powered by the God-given talents that you have. Your gifts are literally meant to make room for you and to make a way for you to show up in the world. It doesn't make sense to reject the power of your gift because someone else is rejecting the power of their own. And that's something that I had to learn. And I really want other people to understand that, who are listening to this podcast. Most of the time, that's what's happening. When someone is trying to make you feel self-conscious about, using your gift, most of the time it's because they're rejecting the power in their own. People only get uncomfortable and ask you to skid past your successes when they feel like your shine is highlighting their lack. Let me say that again, because I feel like that was a word for somebody's spirit, okay? People only get uncomfortable and ask you to skid past your successes when they feel that your shine is highlighting their lack. This also helps you understand who you're in the presence of when these things happen. Literally, never have I ever met someone who's walking in their gift tell me, Lanisha, you're doing too much. In fact, when I meet someone who is actively and on fire and someone that is walking in their gift, they're like, Lanisha, like, tell me more. Like, I'm inspired by the strength of your gift. You should do more. And those who have yet to unlock their potential are the ones who are less spirited about my presentation and try to dismiss me. So I've noticed. And, it took me trial and error to anchor my confidence enough to talk about myself without feeling self-conscious as it came to promoting my brand and my product. Now I handle my appearances, my public appearances, completely different than how I did 6 years ago when I was first starting out. First of all, my books are always in tow with me, and I don't mind giving people a full explanation of who I am. and I don't bashfully hurry past the best parts of myself, afraid of boring someone or making them feel uncomfortable. And let me tell you why making that adjustment in my script was so critical for me. Story time. So one time I was casually talking to a doctor, and I hadn't realized that he was a doctor. But nonetheless, in the natural exchange of our conversation, he asked me to tell him about myself. Now, the old Lanisha, the 2014 Lanisha who was just starting out, would have said, oh, I serve in my community and I mentor. That answer in its brevity is proof from anyone suspecting that I'm fishing to show off. But the me today at 25, who has had my confidence a little bit more anchored, and I've been able to sanitize my brand and how I talk about it, now I've grown to have the confidence to say, well, I'm Lanisha of LanishaPorter.com. I'm a graduate of a college in New York. I'm a 2-time author of autobiographical works. I've created and I had several mentoring initiatives. I also do motivational speaking, and overall, I identify myself to be an ambassador for empowerment. I'm comfortable to say those things confidently, frankly, and say it like I mean it. But it took me a while to get there. And in this particular instance, while I was talking to a doctor who I had not known who was a doctor, the doctor inquired to know more about my mentoring focus. And I enthusiastically shared. I told him everything that there was to tell. And so 5 minutes later, I look over and the doctor is actually pulling out his checkbook to write me a $2,000 check. Pause. First of all, I never asked, never even hinted toward a financial need. It was a complete spur of the moment situation. But simply because I didn't shy away from speaking in totality about who I am or what I do, he was willing to subsidize my work. But if I had, still been worried about feeling self-conscious, I would have missed out on a blessing. And something else I will say is that I have had to learn the delicate balance of being aspirational and being conversational. I share the things with people that I feel can inspire them, but I also am very transparent in sharing the things with people that will let them know that I am just like you. I identify with common struggle as well. And because of that, because I've learned to teeter that line, in doing so, the money comes as a byproduct. But again, that was a journey that I had to learn. So largely to date, that's why I don't ever mind, popping my stuff and talking that talk, because when you come from where I come from, your circumstances are enough to convince you out of your confidence. And then it gets especially harder to maintain high opinions of yourself when you have people policing and evaluating if you should be allowed to feel good about yourself. But what I want you to understand as you listen to this podcast is confidence is biblical. The Bible tells us, do not lose your confidence, for in it you will have great rewards. Before success can ever become real, you have to believe it in your heart. You have to. And if you are worried about how people are perceiving you, and if you're worried about if you're making other people feel uncomfortable, you are doing such a great disservice to the seeds of greatness in you that hunger to take root and sprout into the world, to bless others around you from your talents and from your greatness. Don't do that. And I understand how awkward it may feel I understand how awkward it may feel to actually gain the confidence to just put yourself out there and promote yourself and promote your brand, but you have to do it. In fact, you stepping into the calling that God has for your life could very well be giving someone else the permission to walk into their calling. I know people who literally bury their dreams, they bury their goals, they bury their ambitions, all in the name of not wanting to stick out and offend other people who will not dare to go after their own dreams. Please don't do that. You never know who is willing to sow into you. You never know who you're inspiring. You never know how far you can reach if you're not daring to take a chance. So take a chance. Always be willing to push your product. You cannot ask other people to believe in you in a way that you're not going to believe in yourself. People will only rise to the level of support and the level of confidence that you have for your own self. So you have to get out there, you have to promote your business, promote your brand, promote your product like you mean it. Don't get out there acting like you're an accident. You're not. Mean that thing, walk in rooms, own it. Don't downplay the best parts of yourself because you have a skill. Don't be afraid to ask for compensation for that skill either. And doing this does not mean that you're a bad person at all. I know a lot of people that feel like it's hard to charge their worth. It's not hard to charge your worth. You have to get out there. You have to mean that thing. You have to do it on purpose. It's not an on accident thing. You have to be intentional. Intention is the greatest organizing power that we have to landscape the life that we want. Walk in those rooms and mean it. Mean it when you promote your brand. Mean it when you promote your product. Mean what you say when you have the attention of other people, because they are only, once again, going to rise to the level of support and the level of confidence that you have in yourself. It is okay to be about your money. It is okay to ask for your worth. And it is okay to talk that talk when you can deliver. Once again, you have just listened to the Legacy Be Built podcast. I am your host and the creator, Lanisha Porter. I pray God's blessings upon you as you build your legacy. May you be blessed. May your legacy be built. And I hope you tune in for episode 6. God bless you.
Legacy, 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 legacy. Black excellence, baby. You gon' let them see.